I'd love it if you could just take me back a bit to when the
Yeah.
performer in you kind of first emerged and how that kind of manifested.
Yeah, I have a very clear moment and memory and experience. So it's very interesting because I grew up in Salt Lake City, Utah, not raised Mormon. I was raised Catholic. I'm ethnically Jewish. Wrap your head around that. And I was very artistic from a young age. My parents will tell you that I was always drawing and speaking in different accents, which I can do like a perfect standard British accent. So as a kid, I was just like, yeah, I was doing all these accents, talking to myself in the mirror, very artistic. My parents are both scientists, so they were like, what's going on with this kid? But once I hit puberty, I kind of shut down. Like the performer in me went very deep inside and hid. And so I didn't take art classes in high school. I took one theater class freshman year and then was like, I can't be seen because I was a girl. I was like, I can't be seen. I had hair down to like my like tits. I was like trying so hard. I felt like such a drag queen. Um, because I've always had this jawline. So it's like I don't feel like I've ever passed as a woman in my life. Um, but what happened was, fast forward to me right around 24 years old, I ended up at a art residency in Rochester, New York. Because when I transitioned, I had taken art classes in college and I was like, oh my God, I'm an artist and I'm also trans. Like it was just boom, like this is who I actually am. This was before Laverne was on the cover of Time. Transparent was just starting to film. So again, like no cultural awareness of trans people. I didn't even think I could be trans, but I was like, I have to take testosterone. I don't know what to do. If I don't take testosterone, we're not moving forward. So took testosterone, thank God, and moved to Rochester, New York, upstate. And I met a photographer. There's a bunch of amazing photographers in Rochester because of Kodak, and he teaches at RIT. He's a teacher at RIT, and he saw me at an event. And he said, "Oh, what do you do?" And I said, "Oh, I do ceramics." And I stay like I'm in the studio tucked away, and I do ceramics. And he was like, "You're a performer." He just said that to me, and I remember it was one of those crystallizing moments. I don't know if you've had that, James, where someone has said something to you, and you're like, "Wait, oh my God, this person sees me so clearly. I don't know if I'm ready." And then on my birthday, I came to his class at RIT, which was called like looking through the queer lens. And it was a queer photography class that was looking at Kathy Opie, Cindy Sherman, performativity from a photographic lens. And I did my first performance art piece. And I did something very weird where I like stripped down in front of this group of basically college students and like didn't get fully naked, but like stripped down and like gave myself a shot of testosterone. It was very cringe, like, but it was the first thing I did. And it was, in a way, it was so real. It was maybe the most real thing I'd done because I just didn't know what I was doing. Um, and then from that moment, that would have been early 2015, no, late 2015. Late 2015, it's just been since then. That was when the performer like opened up.
Let's talk about House of Abraham. What was your initial reaction to Lukas Hassel's script, and why did you want to be involved? Yeah.
Yeah, it's so funny. I mean, it's obviously the script is not funny. There are funny moments, but the script is tackling a very taboo subject. Um, Lisa Belcher is the director, and she direct messaged me on Instagram out of nowhere, and I was like, "How did she find me?" To this day, she was like, "I just looked up trans actors and I found you," and I'm like, I didn't have that many credits. Like there were so many other people that she could have found for that role, that were like so optically obviously queer or androgynous. Like I am not that. I look like Jason Bateman. I was like, okay, this is interesting that Lisa's reaching out. She had like a feeling about me. So it's like beautiful how artists just like have hunches. And then I read the script and was like, oh my God, my character has a full arc. It is not about him being trans. There are some really deep, profound things that you watch my character go through that kind of supersede a like trans trope, a trans narrative, a sad trans person. Like it was just shocking to me. And then I talked to Lucas, and Lucas was like, I didn't say like, oh, other trans people were upset about this, etc. But I was like, wow, this is really bold. And he was like, well, I have trans friends. I've been friends with trans men for decades. He's like, I know these. So it's not this idea of what trans people are. It's like Lucas is very sensitive. He's an actor, he's an artist. And he was like, I'm just pulling from people I know, essentially. And that's why my character felt so, to me, dimensional. And I'm not going to spoil anything, but I just love the journey that my character goes on because it's actually unexpected, I think.
And all of these characters are quite mysterious, aren't they? Particularly in the first part of the film. So, did you do quite a bit of like sort of fleshing out your character's background, your own sort of homework, to sort of fill it out for you? And tell me a
Yeah.
bit more about, just your approach to playing Alex in general. But yeah.
Yeah, and I just wrapped another feature that I shot in San Francisco that's also kind of it's even more, it leans more into raunchy horror comedy. Like there's a very strong campy quality to the feature I just wrapped. And I do the same thing when I prep for characters for both Alex and this other character named Arthur. Um, I always create a backstory. I don't get super invested. Like most actors, we throw everything away when we're on set, but like I do spend time really thinking about, okay, what is this person's world? I often draw from people that exist. I created, Lisa actually was like, it would be very helpful if you created a backstory. I was already doing it, but I did it, and it was extremely helpful because I actually distilled that it wasn't his transness that was sending him to this house. Like it was a breakup, and that's not in the film, but like I had a whole experience of like losing a relationship that was part of his ego identity for so long, and losing there's an element where he's an athlete, he's a professional diver. So the transition piece, which I know because I'm an athlete and I know what it's like to be trans and being an athlete, it's extremely complicated. And often we have to let go of being part of a women's sports team because we transition. And I'm not the only guy I know. I know other guys who were professional or college soccer players or football players who had to leave their teams when they transitioned. And so that's also, there's heartbreak with a relationship, and there's also heartbreak with, oh, I can never compete in like women's diving because I'm a man now. But I'm not, can I compete in men's diving? Like it's the complicated nature of being a trans athlete.
But yeah, you could really feel like this fully developed character and all of his, that coming with the character, even though he doesn't necessarily talk too much about life outside. So, I really like that. Yeah, and tell me a bit about your co-stars, because it's a great ensemble piece, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, what a gift. I have to be really honest, and Zachary knows this, my partner knows this. I'm becoming a cinephile, but like my partner's a cinephile, truly. She's seen everything. I am like, I was raised in Utah. I sometimes like joke that I'm like a country boy. Like there's an element where I'm like, my parents raised me on foreign films, but like I'm not a cinephile. So I didn't know who Natasha Henstridge was. Like I didn't know about Species. I've had a lot of people be like, oh my God, especially Gen Xers are like, she was like, especially men are like, oh my God, she was like the sexiest woman alive when I was growing up. Um, Natasha is incredible. She's extremely nice. She's Canadian. So she's got that, like, not to generalize, but she's got that sweet Canadian vibe that I just love. Very laid back, but also like she's like a lot of presence, like very commanding. And she taught me a lot. Lin Shaye is the queen of horror.
Yes.
So working with Lin was fabulous. I learned a lot from her just about being present and improvising. She is such a grand master improviser. She's in her 80s. She has the energy of a 16-year-old boy. She's just like, let's go. I have 60 ideas about this scene. Again, she's not telling people she's just like, this is what I want to do. She really wanted, and James, I think we would have loved this, all the queers. She really wanted to dress in like a French maid's outfit the whole time. She wanted to be in like stockings. She was like, it didn't make it into the cut, but like she wanted to really lean into the sexy, kind of unhinged Beatrice, which she did achieve, but she wanted it to be even more campy. I just love Lin. Lin is so surprising to work with. I learned so much as an actor, which is mostly just have fun, like have fun, and everyone's going to eat it up. You
And
know,
you mentioned you weren't so much of a cinephile because I was going to ask you like how much of a horror fan you were as a viewer, sort of coming into this. But
the irony of my career so far, James, is that I have booked quite a bit of horror. I just wrapped a horror film in January, truly a slasher. Like this one's not really a slasher. The one I just wrapped is a slasher. Uh, but also very incredible. I'm so excited for that film that's coming out in 2026. Oh my God. Because it's very well done. But I've booked a lot of horror and it's not my genre. Never been my genre. I've never enjoyed it. I don't know why people would subject themselves to that initially. And then after shooting House of Abraham, after wrapping on this film called Unsavory Elements, I have a deeper appreciation for the genre, partially because you can have really complicated queer dialogue, what it's like to be an oppressed person, like any kind of minority group. You can have very complex conversations within the horror genre, and you're being seen by all of the horror lovers who sometimes are very conservative. So it's this incredible Trojan horse of a genre where you're like exposing people who maybe don't care about trans people or don't care about, I just finished a film with a bunch of Chinese people who are like, I want to talk about what it's like to be a Chinese American. Like, it's in the film. We're talking about it in a way that's brave, audacious, and kind of can only maybe not only happen in horror, but it's just such a great like vehicle to get these messages out. So I'm like a fan. I watch more horror because my partner Zachary, she loves horror. She loves horror. So now I watched like Hereditary. I watched the most recent one, Heretic, that was with oh my God, I can't remember the name of that actor. But anyway, I've seen a few that I'm like, oh, there's so much value in this genre if it's done well. And there's also a lot of bad horror, but also that's like Diet Cola. People are like, oh, it tastes good. I like it. So yeah, I haven't seen much horror, but the horror that I have seen, I've really enjoyed. And I really enjoy the films that I'm in, not to tout, like, it's not because of me, but I'm just like, I'm enjoying what we're making.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And tell me about Airplane 2025. So it's called Airplane 2025, but it's actually set in the 70s, right? Yeah.
So confusing. Let me tell you this. It's Asylum Film. So Asylum are the people who make Sharknado. Crazy. Okay. I've never seen, speaking of like, it's not really horror, but well, it's kind of a horror. Yeah, Airplane 2025 was originally titled Mile High Club, which makes so much more sense. But it's so psychedelic and so campy that I watched it and was like, I am not bothered by any of this. It is exactly what it is, which is it's a spoof movie, it's a sex comedy, it's a little bit like just a trashy Austin Powers, but not set in the UK. Um, well, do I think it's like a masterpiece? No, but I'm going to be honest. But I will tell you that I had so much fun playing a cis man, playing like a sex pot tennis player cis man. I don't think even the producers looked me up, so they just didn't even know I was trans. I love that piece. I rolled onto set. I had the wardrobe person was like, "Oh, you're trans, no worries. Here's a packer." She had like a pack. I was like, "I'm in LA. This is crazy." The wardrobe person just had like a packer. I was packing the whole time in my tiny short shorts, and the women on the ensemble cast they're so amazing. I just had like the best time with this group of folks, and it gave me hope for humanity at large because I was on a set where like I wasn't disclosing that I was trans. I wasn't hiding it, but I wasn't like this needs to be about me and my identity. And everyone was just so loving, so excited to work with me, and it just felt as a trans person navigating Hollywood, it felt like there's light at the end of the tunnel. I can be in these spaces. I'm allowed to be in these spaces, and it's not. I can just be myself like everyone else on the cast can be themselves.
And aside from your screen work, you've done a lot of comedy on stage, haven't you? How did you first sort of get up there and I guess what sort of gave you the confidence to do it or the impetus to just go up and do it?
I have to give thanks and like credit where credit's due, which is Joey Soloway, so creator, showrunner of Transparent. Joey and I got our adult B'nai Mitzvah together, so we like came into the Jewish faith together in a deeper way in 2021. And Joey started their transition medically and was like, because they started taking testosterone, they're like, I have this newfound confidence. They were like, I know how men do it now. Like, I'm like, who cares? And it was kind of a joke. But then they started doing, we did a live show called Gnarly Hose. And Gnarly Hose is like the Charlie Rose show. It was an interview style show that was like Rachel Maddow on like an LSD ketamine cocktail. It was crazy live show. We did not allow it to be recorded. There is no live recordings because we were interviewing like influencers in LA in the most unhinged way. I played Billy Bush, which is George Bush's cousin. Joey played Gnarly Hose. We were talking about all the men that got canceled in Hollywood. Very funny, very unhinged. So we were already doing like weird performance art comedy. And then Joey got into stand up from there. And then Joey said to me, "Why aren't you doing stand up?" And I was like, I don't know. The city of West Hollywood gave me a grant, an arts grant, and I was supposed to curate like an art show with trans men. Like that's what I had pitched. And then because I'm such a freaking like rebel without a cause, I was like, so I've never done stand up, but I kind of want to host a trans masculine comedy night. Never done it, never done stand up. And so I took the money from the city of West Hollywood. I asked permission. They were not initially they were like, what? But anyway, we did our first show in 2023, January of 2023, called Big Dad Energy. And it was the first time I'd been on stage as a stand up. Joey was on the lineup, a few other Janaea Khan, a few other incredible transmasculine comics came on stage. I did a 22-minute set. I had no idea that like I should have kept it to 10 because it was a group show. I don't know. Like this is how I live my life. I just bulldoze into spaces. And I had the time of my life, and people were like, "You're really funny." I had the time of my life. Was I horrified? Yes. And then I think once you break the seal with comedy and once you bomb, which I have bombed on stage, like I have had jokes not go over, it's very liberating. And it's not that I think that comedy, once you do it a few times, you're like, okay, like I could get on stage again. Like, what's the worst that's going to happen? You know, people forget immediately anyway. So that's how I got into comedy was Joey. Joey was like, do it when we did it. And I can't do anything small. So I had to do like an actual showcase as the first time.
I love that there's so much to talk to you about because I also want to talk to you about astrology as well. So how did that come into your life? And then you give readings too, right?
Yeah, I work one-on-one with people
Yeah.
weekly. I actually have clients that I've worked with for at this point, like consistently for like 5 or 6 years. It's pretty incredible. I love astrology. I know that, in LA, people are more amenable to it. I talked to some New Yorkers who are like, that's not real, and also although I have quite a few British clients, but and European clients in general, but it's still an interesting moment to come out as an astrologer. It's so funny because like at parties, often, I would rather people know I'm trans sometimes than have Zachary be like, "Oh yeah, he's an astrologer," and I'm like, "Oh God," There's moments where it's like the deepest closet for me. Ironically, I'm becoming much more open about it because I'm just like, this has been my life since I was 11 years old. So a few things. I mean, I've studied astrology since I was 11. I was that kid who I'm a voracious reader, and I went into New Age bookstores in Salt Lake City, of all places, and was reading the entire occult section as like an 11, 12, 13-year old. My parents were like, great, okay, all right, weird. But my parents are scientists, but they did do tarot. They did tarot readings, yes, often to help them guide their scientific practice, which is wild. And my dad solved a lot of his greatest experiments in his dreams. I know, like, and he's so left brain, right brained. It's left brain. He's so left brain. He's so logical as a person, but yet they were engaging in metaphysical practices. And my mom was very supportive of astrology for me. She was like, this person's finding meaning. I gravitated to astrology, I think, in some ways because it was like a non-gendered art. Like I wasn't bound by gender. I was the planets became this sort of multivalent identity forming experience. And so I'm in my 30s now. I've been doing this for like at least 20 years, pretty intensely. And so I have a deep body of knowledge around it. And I understand my astrological practice similar to my parents' scientific practice, where I'm data collecting. I'm really just observing and data collecting. It's watching and seeing, okay, what am I seeing in the chart versus what's happening in the external realm? And the work I do with clients, in my understanding currently, is very therapeutic through the lens of the chart. So we go really deep emotionally. through this structure. So it's like the chart becomes almost a doorway into where does this person need to heal. And honestly, I'll say it very broadly, even if people don't believe in astrology, and I have a lot of clients who their girlfriends buy them readings, and I'm sitting with a dude who's like, I don't believe in any of this. But by the end of the session, I often see breakthroughs happening because it's just a totally different language than a talk therapist. It's a totally different language than you're going to get in popular psychology. So the work is really powerful if it's done well. Obviously, any tool can be used incorrectly. So that's kind of my short story, short and long version of it. Yeah.
And is the podcast astrology focused? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. World of Rex is a weekly podcast that I've been doing since 2021. And I just give sort of weekly weather. This is what's happening. This is what I see. This is what's possible. And it's generalized. So it's not like specific to a person, but I do talk sometimes about political events. I definitely do a lot of pop culture. I have an assistant in New York who makes a newsletter where we kind of bring up movies and films and music that sort of archetypally matches what's happening with the planets above.
Wow. Was Zachary already into astrology when you met, or is she really into it because of you? Because when we were talking in London, she was talking a bit about astrology and seemed very passionate about it. So,
Yeah, oh, I've definitely like rubbed off for sure. And I'm always pleasantly surprised. Not that I need her to have that language, but she knows that it's how my brain kind of processes events. Like I'm very much through the lens of the planets. That's one of the ways that I cope with reality and also understand reality. So she's definitely received by osmosis a lot. But even when we met, she said such a funny thing. We on our first date, like our first real date, which was back in early 2019, she was like, "Oh, I only date water signs." And it was a very funny moment because she didn't know anything about we didn't know anything about each other, and it was a funny moment where I was like, "I'm a Pisces," so I was like, "Okay, well, whew, it was very interesting." And now she has like a more nuanced perspective of it, but it's beautiful to share that and for her not to be judgmental around it, and she's very open and she listens to me when I'm like, today is kind of an intense day up above, so like just FYI. And she's so I'm more almost sensitive about people knowing, like I don't want to come off as a heretic or crazy, and she's more like she'll be on a meeting with like CAA or like business people and she'll be like, yeah, astrologically, she's just so confident. She's like, yeah, today this thing's happening, and she'll just say it like no big deal in any context. She said it when you saw her at BFI. She's so comfortable with it because she's just like, for her, it's real. And for me, it's real too, but I have the like, am I being a heretic kind of internal process.
and I read that you surf too. Are you still a surfer?
Yes.
It's still something you do regularly? Yeah.
Yeah, I love surfing. Surfing has been it's actually like a paradigm shifting experience for anybody who's like, do I want to try that? Do I want to do that? I was transformed. I learned during the pandemic. So it was a pandemic related activity that I surfed every day for like an entire 6 or 8 months in the year of 2020 once they opened the beaches in LA. Because of the fires, it's very questionable the water quality right now. So I mean, that's been a challenging, yeah, the fires have caused a lot of disruption in that routine. I haven't been surfing as much as I would like to because of the water quality, but I think about it all the time. I'm thinking about the ocean all the time. I just read an article yesterday where like a dude had a shark bite into his board. But this is the crazy thing about surfing. Okay. I'm reading this article and he like swam away. He totally survived the shark attack. And he said it in the article. And I was thinking it as I was reading it. Cause as I read it, I was like, I'd still go back in and surf. And he says in the article, he goes, I'm not going to stop surfing. And that's the power of this process. Like it's very addicting for sure, but it's also, I don't even know how to use words for it. I'll just say it very crudely. Like it's one of the best forms of therapy. This ocean therapy, water therapy, salt therapy, catching a wave. Like the metaphor of surfing is just, you can apply it to life. It's very corny, but I really feel it.
So, last question for you, and it's quite a broad one. It's for your favorite piece of LGBTQ plus culture. So it could be film, TV series, book, theater, music, any piece of culture you can think of, or a person who
Mhm.
identifies as LGBTQ plus. So you can pick someone or something that's had an impact on you and kind of resonated with you over the years. And
Yeah.
why. Yeah.
The first thing that pops into my head, which is what I'm going to go with, because that just feels honest. There's like an honesty with the immediate, is Ron Athey. Ron is a mentor of mine. And I don't, I mean, Ron and technically Castles and Sherry Rose, but like we'll just stick with Ron. I'm just trying to plug everybody here. But I wouldn't be I wouldn't have made it to Los Angeles without Ron. Being exposed to Ron's work as somebody early on in their artistic career and realizing like there's no limit to how vulnerable you can get in front of an audience. And Ron really, his work has shown that with just even turning his body almost literally inside out in front of audiences for decades and decades and decades. Franco B, same thing in London. Like the fact that I've been able to develop relationships with both of these men is just so beautiful in real life. Dominic Johnson like chronicling Ron's work and having a relationship with Dom Johnson, like just so it's so he gives so much. Ron gives you allowance to just be yourself because he's like, I've survived, and not only survived, I've made this incredibly risky and brave art about it. I've sat in front of the NEA. So Ron is just to me a hallmark. Like he's like a pillar. He's just a pillar. There's these moments where I just realize like Ron is so present for me, just like as a person. And as a trans man, I'll say this final thing about Ron. As a trans man, I was so aware that my body was vulnerable in a very specific way because like I have many holes. And Ron's entire work is like, even though he's a cis man, he's penetrating his own body and showing that like a very masculine Herculean body has holes and can be penetrated. And there's something so radical about embodying a masculinity that also is breaking the veneer that men are impenetrable. And I really like that. It really resonated with me because I was like, I'm someone who has holes, and Ron has holes, and all men have holes, technically, if we're being very technical here. And what a revolutionary idea to afford other men the ability to be open and receive and be penetrated in whatever way we want to, like energetically, psychically, literally. So to me, Ron's just a vanguard for all of that. And I stand in his footsteps. Like he's like my elder.
Marvel Rex, thanks so much.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, James. Appreciate it. Such a sweet interview.